Hatcher. It remains a very, very good FA Cup final. And Hatcher! What a magnificent goal!
Good evening and welcome to All Things Sky Blue match preview against Oxford away. So we are at Oxford at the Kassam Staduim, I think it's called. Nod in the background if it is still called the Kassam Staduim, just in case I get that wrong. Just before I bring my guest on, I'm not joined by Mark today. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, so it's just myself and Simon when he comes on. Before I do bring him on, just remember where you can find us. We are available on X or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Please go and like and subscribe to anything that we do on there. There's a few good things out at the moment and coming up as well, so that's looking forward to. We're sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. His logo's in the corner. He can do your steel fabrication work up and down the country, but mainly in the Coventry and Warwickshire area. We're also partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena and the Sky Blue Tavern, where I am tonight, where I do most of my recordings from. We're also associated with the Coventry Ladies as well, so look out for more information on that coming up shortly. We are on podcasts as well, so if you do listen to us instead of watching us, please go and rate us 5 stars. We are available on all social media podcasts like Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, and wherever else that you get your podcasts from. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest, Simon, from the Fence End podcast. How are you, Simon?
Yeah, very well, Stuart. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Normally, I'd talk to Mark about how we've been playing and stuff, but there's no Mark tonight, so we'll just go straight into it. So, for both of us, there's been changes. So we'll talk about the managers first. Obviously, you know, we lost Mark Robins after 7 years of being in charge. Quite a bit of an uproar when he did leave. Frank Lampard came in eventually after about 2 weeks and 3 games, I think it was, that he was not in charge for. Started off a little bit okay, but he's turned it around. We're now, I think, 6 wins in 7. Only losing to Leeds, which most teams at the minute seem to be losing to Leeds anyway. But for yourselves, you lost Des Buckingham, and you've got Gary Rowett in. So tell me, how have things gone? Because I think you had a little bit of a purple patch when you first come in. I think things have slowly starting to die down from that purple patch. Let us know how things are different from the two.
Yeah, I mean, there was a certain amount of sort of mirroring where at the start of Des Buckingham's reign in the Championship, we started quite well this season and then it tailed off, and Gary Rowett started very well. And it's, I say tailed off, he's picked up more points in fewer games than Des managed. And we've just got a little bit sort of twitchy recently with fans and looking at, you know, a couple of defeats, one of those to Portsmouth in the last game, has got fans looking sort of behind us and down towards the bottom of the league. But I just checked the table and we're 9 points clear of Derby and we're 9 points behind you. And I'm sure you're not looking at us in quite the same way that we're looking at Derby, thinking we can't let them catch us. We can't let them catch us. So it does feel like we're trying to keep clear of those bottom teams rather than looking ahead and you know, making any kind of attempt on playoffs or anything daft like that. I think the start of the season, it was all about survival. And I think if we'd have said, what are we, 2/3 of the way pretty much through the season to say, well, we're 9 points clear of the relegation spots, I think we'd have everyone in our fan base would have gone, thank you very much. We'll have that.
Yeah. Do you think, how has the styles changed at all, or has he tried to keep it the same and just, I don't know, just added a little bit to it?
Yeah, I think, when Rowett came in, there was a lot of fans of clubs that he played for before saying he'll get you results, but it'll be dull. And to start with, it wasn't. We were playing some attacking football. He didn't change a great deal. All he seemed to do was, whereas we've been playing with a single holding midfielder and two ahead of that, he's kind of just reversed that a little bit, and we tend to play with two deep lying midfielders and one player in that sort of number 10 role. So it's not changed very much at all in terms of the formations. I think once or twice we've gone to a back sort of three centre halves and wing backs, back three, back five, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And at the moment we're kind of short on numbers at the back, but we've been pretty solid. We've only kind of conceded one goal in games, apart from a couple sort of since that Leeds 4-0. We've been pretty solid at the back, and it's up front that we've struggled more recently. We've got players coming back from injury. The club captain, Elliot Moore, should be back fairly soon. I'm not sure he's going to get in ahead of Kieran Brown and Hellick, who we signed from Huddersfield in the January window, unless he goes to a back five, three centre halves kind of thing. So I don't know. We might see a change of formation when Elliot Moore's back, but at the moment it's still that four at the back, two holding midfielders, then kind of three attacking midfielders and one centre forward, which isn't a big change from Des Buckingham, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. And obviously we're recording this before our Saturday games. So obviously you've got, I believe you've got West Brom at home, yeah. And we've got Preston away. Preston away for us as well. Preston at home. Yeah. They're a bogey side for us anyway, so we don't know what's going to happen with them games. So obviously there might be suspensions or injuries and things like that as well that might come across. Now, obviously, before we go into the games and stuff, you've already mentioned bringing in Hellick in the January transfer window, so we may as well talk about that now as well. So you didn't have a busy transfer window, but I think you've bought shrewdly, to be fair. Tom Bradshaw, unfortunately, I believe he's injured as well now.
He is, yeah.
Is he going to be back for our game?
No, he was injured a couple of weeks back, and at the time they said he would be out for sort of, quote, weeks. So I don't think we can expect him back. Probably it's going to be another 3 or 4 weeks yet, I would imagine.
Okay, and then obviously you've mentioned Hellick already, another good centre half.
Yeah.
Alex Matos and is it Ollie Romani?
Yeah.
Are they likely to play, or? I
would. Matos might, depends how we line up. He's a kind of box to box midfielder we've got in on loan, and he looks good. He's quick, likes a tackle. I can imagine he'll get as many red cards as he gets assists or goals. He's combative, let's say that. But I like him. I think he's the sort of player you need in midfield. When you are battling. Ollie Romani is an interesting one. He's a Dutch-born player that was at Utrecht last season, but he's got Indonesian citizenship now and qualifies for the Indonesian national side. Now, our owners have that connection with Indonesia. There's with Eric Thahir and India Bakri. They're very kind of well connected within Indonesian football, the Indonesian Olympic Committee and government. So that when that happened, it felt like a bit of a kind of an owner buy rather than a manager buy. Yeah. Having said that, he looks decent. He came on against Stoke, hit the crossbar, nearly scored from a very tight angle. And in the last game against Pompey, where we lost the game, he came on and really looked bright and lively. So I think he was one that was a bit of that's an unusual signing, not a bit of a left field one, but I think he could be one that works really well. The other signing we've made is a loan signing. Now a permanent signing. Stan Mills, who we had on loan from Everton last season, had a really nasty knee injury about a year ago, and it's taken that time for him to get fit. He had a couple of under-21 games at Everton, and then they released him. We've signed him, and he came on against Pompey as well, and looks the player that we had last season. He's very quick, very direct, kind of classic winger. Head down, runs with it, doesn't do too many tricks, just tries to get pace and get to the byline and get crosses in. So, yeah, the January window was quite decent. sadly, Bradshaw has been injured, but we haven't lost players that we didn't want to lose. One or two have gone out, but they were players that were fringe. So all in all, decent. Yeah.
Nice. Is he a left or a right winger?
Right winger, right winger, right-footed, but can come inside and sort of hit one with his left. But yeah, very much right-footed and right winger.
Okay, so obviously we've mentioned Todd Bradshaw being out injured as well. And is he the only one at the minute that might who would be a first starter, if you like, a first teamer? Because you've got Elliot Moore, Max Watman, Ben Nelson, and Bennett as well.
Yeah, Bennett might well be back this weekend because Greg Lee, who's been our left back, looked like he did a hamstring against Pompey. Whether he'll be back in time, certainly not this weekend with the game at West Brom. They've not really said how long that's going to be. So Joe Bennett, who'd been out since quite early in the season, now looks ready to play. He wasn't included in the squad at the start of the season, and he's not played yet sort of since January when they may have added him to the squad. So it'd be an interesting if they do bring him back. And yeah, Nelson is another one that might feature before the end of the season. Elliot Moore coming back. So yeah, we're a bit light up front with Bradshaw not being there. I think we could have hopefully got an extra striker in the January window, which we didn't, but we'll see, because Mark Harris has been slogging his guts out all season without a great deal of luck. So Romani might be the player that replaces him up front, but injury wise, not too bad. We're getting players back. It's not as bad as it has been.
Okay. Now obviously, did you, going back to the game, we've got a good history against you. Obviously, I always remember, in recent history, the 6-2 comes to mind last season in our cup run that we had, and Casey Palmer scoring that wonder goal at our place. You've only won one in the last 6. We've only drawn one, and we've won the last 4. So. And obviously, the last game that we had at the CBS Arena, it took a last-minute goal in a side really that wasn't really firing on all cylinders. We were letting in goals for fun, and obviously we had Hadji Wright. Hadji Wright's been out for a long, long time. Mason Clark's just coming back now slowly. Sheaf might be back for Preston at the weekend. So we're starting to get players back, but we've had people step up. We've had Jack Redoni step up since Lampard's come in. Mason Clark, before he got that little injury, was one of the shining lights as well. And obviously, January transfer window, we brought Matt Grimes in from Swansea, which for me is one of the signings of the window. He's an absolutely brilliant player. Against Leeds in his little cameo that he had, absolutely brilliant. Popped the ball around lovely. I just wish he started, if I'm honest, but I kind of understood why, because we were playing quite well. He was okay against, it was our last game. I can't think who our last game was now. Bloody hell. Chef Wednesday. So he had an okay game, and I think he'll grow into that position, and players will find him more as we progress. So yeah, things are looking up. Did you go to the reverse fixture at our place?
I didn't know. I was away I missed both that and the League Cup game at our place.
Okay.
Away on holiday, so I did watch bits of the game, the league game on a phone, sort of the little bits and pieces that I could see, and it was that last minute winner for you guys from a Will Volks kind of mistake. He did a lot of that early in the season, Will Volks, and those kind of balls where the ball's played out from the goalkeeper and he's facing our goal and he tries that kind of reverse pass, and on a number of occasions it hasn't worked this season. He's somebody that's really shone under Gary Rowett, to be fair to him. It didn't look like a signing that was going to come off, and kind of flourish, but certainly under Rowett, he's improved a lot. and maybe it's just one of those sort of things that happens under a different manager. You know, he's asked to do something slightly different, and it just suits him. So
Yeah,
but it's funny you mentioned that 6-2 in the cup, and that's only just over a year ago, and it feels for us like a lifetime. You know, a different manager. We've gone, you know, up through the playoffs since then, and it just it at the time it felt like, blimey, does Buckingham know what he's doing? And you know, fair enough, he got us up, and on a wonderful day at Wembley, it all came to fruition. But it's interesting that you know, losing quite heavily to a team you guys were flying last season and absolutely took us apart, and we looked at it as a right. That's the level we need to be at if we want to compete and we want to go up, you know, which we luckily did. That's where we want to be aspiring to, you know, that level of play, because you play a nice brand of football. It's, you know, it was on the floor, attacking. It was good to watch, and I think that early game in this season where we only lost by the odd goal right at the end of the game, we kind of showed how far we'd come, and it was a positive for us looking at that and going, yeah, maybe we do belong.
Yeah, I can understand. In a way, you know, that you thought that you deserved to be that way. It was a little bit disappointing, really, because obviously we were nothing to take anything away from you guys, but we were going through a period where literally every single shot that was at goal went in.
Yeah.
And it was just utter ridiculous, because I think if we'd played that game now, I think it would be a different score. I don't think that second goal would have gone in, because I think that was. I watched the highlights again today, and that was a little bit lucky. It hit he was nearly hitting the floor with his head, weren't he, when he knocked it through, and it just hit the other player and went into the goal. I don't think that goal happens now. I think Dovin and the defence have got that little bit more astute with Lampard coming in. So I'm obviously we'll come on to predictions a little bit later, but I am fairly optimistic. I'm not saying that it's going to be a 6-2 by any stretch of the imagination, because our defence can mess up and we can turn in a horrible performance. But saying that, under Lampard, we're just finding ways to win, and I think that's signs of a good team that we can dig in and we can get that win. You know, we were absolutely bombarded against Sheffield Wednesday, and in all honesty, we shouldn't have won that game, but we did. And it's about, at the moment, it's about getting them 3 points on the board each and every game week. So we'll have to see what happens. Like I said, a lot of things can happen, you know, because we've got that game in between ours anyway. Obviously, I know you didn't watch it, or you tried to watch it on your phone, so you don't necessarily get a good perspective of it when you're watching it like that. With things that you heard and the reports and everything that you probably read after the game, how did you feel? Did you feel that was the right result, or did you feel that you were robbed?
No, I don't think, you know, the scoreline reflected the play. I think, you know, we were up against it through a lot of the game, and you know, it was one of those, if we'd have hung on, absolutely brilliant. You know, like I say, it was that mistake from Volks that you know, gave that goal away. But it was more a sort of I think a feeling that, like I say, feeling that we belong. The early on in the season, when we beat Stoke at home, we beat Preston at home, we beat Norwich at home, and there was a certain amount of, we should, you know, from opposition fans, we should be beating teams like Oxford if we want to do anything this season. That seems to have stopped now. I mean, we've picked up a few more results recently where we have won.
Yeah. And
it became a little thing with some Oxford fans, like, you know, we were looking out for the fans saying we should be beating teams like Oxford, and we wore it as a bit of a badge of honour, and it's now, I think, like I said, I think, you know, we feel like we belong. We're doing all right, and it's, you know, but equally we know it's going to be tough at your place, you know, in a week or so's time, because you're chasing for the playoffs. We're looking to avoid relegation, really, and it's one of those games where, a bit like West Brom this weekend, they'll be the favourites by a long way. They'll be looking to, you know, beat us, and it might suit us to play on the break a bit. We've come up against sides where recently, Derby and Pompey most recently, where we've struggled a little bit, and it's maybe when we're expected to have a lot of the ball and be more dominant, that actually that doesn't quite suit how we can play on the break with the pace we've got up front. So it will be an interesting one. Like, yeah, going back to that 3-2, you know, whether it perhaps would have been, you know, unjust if we had hung on, and ultimately we didn't. But I think that kind of looking back, that 6 months earlier and the game at your place in the cup, we didn't disgrace ourselves, and I think that's what we've done this season. Really, we've gone through the season with only a couple of games where we've looked at ourselves and gone, we've got absolutely annihilated there. Everywhere else, we've competed. We've been in games.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing. I think Norwich was your first game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you shocked the whole entire football world, I think, because Norwich were probably at that time at the start of the season favourites, you know, for maybe even automatics and stuff, and to absolutely turn them over, you know, you definitely made me stand up and think, oh, okay, they're not the Oxford of the 6-2 that we had the year before, sort of thing. So it was, quite an eye-opener for me. So, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from you guys. I just think with Lampard now at the helm and the way that we're playing under Lampard, we're just getting results, and we're not letting these stupid mistakes now hit us and hurt us as much as they once did. And like I said, we've climbed up the table. We're 1 point behind the playoffs, which is amazing, because 3 months ago we were sitting 2 points off the relegation zone. So it just shows how far that we've come as well as a club. And Lampard at the minute is getting it. He just knows what he needs to do. And obviously, going back slightly to the transfer, we signed Jamie Patterson as well on a free transfer that was training with us. So he might be ready for the weekend, this weekend as well, to start. It will be a home fixture against Preston. So he might swap and change, so he might not play against you guys. But like I said, we've got Haji Wright coming back. We've got Sheaf coming back. Mason Clark looks like he might be ready to start. But we've been playing well with say 5 at the back, just like you guys play with as well. But yeah, it's looking okay. What threats do you watch much of the other clubs, or are you very much focused on Oxford and what you guys do?
I do tend to sort of focus mainly on Oxford. I know there's a name, and I don't know how much he's been playing, Ellis Sims, you know, and he was a player that I remember from Blackpool's day when he was on loan at Blackpool, and we met them in the semi-finals of the playoffs, League One playoffs in 2021, and he bullied our defenders, and it was that kind of big proper number 9 that we always worry about, you know, against us, that we've not had for a number of years, and he will be one, certainly. Like I say, Radoni's been playing brilliantly and sort of dictating games. He'll be one that we really need to keep an eye on. And obviously Haji Wright, you know, his exploits last season, and he looks like a threat. And the other one was Sakamoto, who impressed me immensely in the cup game. You know, he really good, technical, tricky player, but always looking for the forward pass and the you know, the attacking option rather than just keeping possession for possession's sake. No, it's like, right, what can we do with the ball? Can we hurt you? And I think you've got that real threat. It'll be an interesting matchup with, like I say, we've been defending really well, and Kieran Brown has been, I think, player of the season. He's kind of a bit of an unsung hero. He's, you know, left centre half who can play left back, who I think I've got a mate who's a Stoke fan, and he loves him. He said he's one of those players I wish we'd have at our place. You know, he's not flash. He's just 7, 8, probably 8 or 9 out of 10 every week. Wow. Chips in with a few goals, and he's just, you know, Mr. Reliable. And I think with Helik coming in alongside him, we have looked quite solid at the back. So it'll be an interesting matchup. You know, that I can't see us having a lot of the ball, and we will need to defend well. But we have been doing that really.
Oh, fantastic! So yeah, you know, you've kind of put the doubts in me a little bit in terms of predictions. But going back to Ellis Sims, for some reason, even last season as well, Sim started really, really slowly. He couldn't, and again this season, he couldn't really score, found it hard. I don't know whether that was just because maybe under Robbins. Under Lampard, he started off a little bit slow, I think just adjusting to the manager. But for some reason, same as last year, after Christmas, he changes, he switches on, and he scored 2 goals against Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend. The first one was a fantastic flick on from another Jack Rodoni assist. But the second goal, the one that was ruled out wasn't a foul, but he got himself in that position. But the second one was just all about him, and he wouldn't have done that a few months ago. A high ball that come over, Beadle was getting ready to catch it. He must have caught Ellis Sims running towards him out the corner of his eye, took his eye off the ball, dropped it, and Ellis Sims just kind of tapped it into an empty net. And that's what he's been doing of late. So he's been playing much better than I've seen him at the start of the season. He is working a lot harder as well, which is nice to see. With Lampard as well, with the players that we've got, we don't actually know, even for the Preston game, we don't know what formation he's going to start with. Because if Mason Clark's back fit, he might revert back to a back 4 and play 4-3-3 and have Mason Clark and Sakamoto and maybe Sims up top on his own. That worked really, really well for us when he really got into his gear and Mason Clark was flying down that wing. I'm still not sure which is best, but it's nice that, and Lampard's one of these managers, is very tactically astute, probably a little bit more so than what Robbins was. And he'll change things in game when he sees something happening. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to find out which way he actually goes with that as well. So, yeah, I think it will be a tight matchup. So, on that then, I'll let you go first with the prediction. What's your prediction?
If we can, if we can get anything from it, it'll be a positive for us. I think if I'm being, entirely head ruling the heart rather than the heart ruling the head, a narrow sort of 1 goal, in it defeat, maybe 2-1. Like I say, we're not conceding lots of goals at the moment, and that's helping us in games. We're sticking in and we're staying in there. And with the pace that we've got up front, there's always a chance we can catch something. So I'll go for a 2-1 defeat.
2-1 defeat.
Yes, yeah. I'm not.
Wow.
I'm being honest.
Wow.
And then you never know. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I'm usually wrong with my predictions. So.
God, go for a win then, will you? Yeah. So I'm gonna go for not a smash and grab. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 win because, like you said, you're not conceding many goals. But I think with our threat that we've got and Dovin in goal as well, he's been keeping us in games. He's been playing absolutely tremendously well. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 win, maybe a 2-0. 2-0 win. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. I just think our defence, especially against a Sheffield Wednesday side that absolutely bombarded us. We made a few mistakes. We got away with it. We rode our luck. But I think our performances under Lampard have gradually got better and better. So I think this one is where we'll turn a corner and the performance will show us, hopefully, what we're about anyway. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. So before I do the quick fire questions, I should have done it at the start, really. If you can just let us know what you guys do and where we can find you.
Yeah, so on Blue Sky, we're at Fence End Pod, and on X, it's the Fence End Pod. So, Blue Sky and Twitter is where we are, and in terms of podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, it'll be the Fence End Pod.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Right, so going on to the quick fire questions. Now, obviously, I had Fraser last time that came on. So we'll see if you can guess what he said. and then I'll get your answer to see if it's any different.
Right.
So, first of all, I asked Fraser, player to look out for. Who do you think he would have said at the start of the season?
At the start of the season, crikey. Maybe Placheta.
Okay, it wasn't. No.
Was it no? Brannigan?
No. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cameron Brannigan.
Cameron Brannigan. Yeah. And yeah, bit of the heartbeat of the team, Cam. He's been with us for a number of years. Could have left on a number of occasions, but he's stuck around. And yeah, if he plays well, we play well.
Oh, okay. I presume he's still there then, and he's still...
Yeah. One of the centre midfielders.
Okay, fantastic. Right. I also asked him, where would Cov finish at the end of the season? What do you think he said?
Playoffs.
No, he said 8th.
He
said 8th. Does that change for you? Where do you see Cov finishing?
I think you've got every chance of making the playoffs. Obviously Robbins had done brilliantly there for years and years, and Lampard's one of those managers that sometimes he can sort of divide opinion, and there's always that risk that you become Frank Lampard's Coventry rather than a team in your own right. But I think fair play to him. I think he's he could well develop into and he's becoming a good manager. Those really good players don't always make really good managers, but I think he's kind of perhaps realised that he needs to find a club and stick around for a while and develop a style for himself, and I think Coventry is a club that obviously you've been through some really tough times over the last few years, and seem to be on the up, and a more settled club, and that might well suit and kind of grow together almost.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think out of the, if you want, the big name managers in terms of Rooney, Gerrard, Lampard, Van Nistelrooy, if you like, as well, in that, I think Lampard is definitely the one that's coming out with more credit, because he took Derby to a playoff final. He did well in its first stint at Chelsea. He did what he needed to do at Everton, and that was his remit, was to keep them up, and he did.
Yeah.
The only downside is he probably went back to Chelsea when he shouldn't have, and that's what everybody remembers.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers the good stuff, do they?
No. You're not going to turn down Chelsea. You're not going to go.
Not when it's your club as well. Not when it's your club.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So, next question. I said, where will you finish? What do you think Fraser said?
I think he hoped, and I'll go with exactly the same thing. If we can finish 21st, we'll be happy.
Well, he actually said 16th.
Did he? Fair enough.
He did, yeah. He was very optimistic.
He's spot on at the moment, and I think I'll still take 21st now. If somebody said you can have 20, it was all about survival. It still is all about survival. I think there's teams below us that aren't going to catch us, and hopefully there's 3 or more in that boat that 1 or 2 might go past us. Pompey seem to be hitting a bit of form, but I think there's still enough teams below us that are struggling for form and points that I think will stay above.
Yeah, when we first came up, and the next season, to be fair as well, I always look at the league and I think, are there 3 worse teams than us? And the honest answer is, in our first season, yes, there was. And I think there is in your first season as well. I think there's 3 worse teams than you. So I think you will be fine, in all honesty. And I'm not just saying that because you're on. I think you will be okay.
Yeah. I think we've been hard to beat recently. Like I say, that little run at the start of the year under Rowett, where we picked up plenty of points in a short period of time, has just given us a little bit of a barrier, a buffer rather, and enough to keep us. It's still tight, but teams below us have got to go on quite a run, and they're not. That's the thing.
Right.
We look at ourselves in isolation and think, well, we've lost this week, so everyone's going to catch us, and no, they don't. Teams below us are below us for a reason. They're not very good.
Yeah, definitely. You look at Middlesbrough. They were flying, in the playoffs, and they've dropped right off.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take much to swing either way. A couple of losses for Coventry, and we're mid-table again. It's that kind of season, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to playoffs because the 4 are done and dusted, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's just
they are.
whichever order that they end up in. So,
yeah.
So nobody really wants the other 2 places. Hopefully we can get in there, but we'll have to wait and see. My next question that I asked Fraser was one player you would take from Coventry. What do you think he said? Or who do you think he said?
That's a tricky one. And I would still go, I think, for Ellie Sims. I think he's exactly the sort of player we need. A big, solid number 9. We've got some hard workers, but we haven't got that physical presence that he certainly, when I've seen him in the past, seems to bring.
Yeah. Fraser actually said Jack Rudoni or Ephraim Mason-Clark.
Yeah.
So he went for the kind of winger type.
Yeah.
So I also asked him one word about Des Buckingham. What do you think he said?
Legend.
Close. He said like a fan.
Yeah.
Like a fan.
It's when he was sacked, I think a lot of our fans were well, myself included, kind of very disappointed. But I thought he was going to be given more time than he was. But I think in hindsight, it was the right decision. And I think maybe if he had stuck around and we ended up in real deep trouble, too late to change it and whatever, it would have spoilt his reputation with us. Yeah. The fact that he was only there a year got us, promoted at Wembley as well. And I think every fan, if you give fans the option, right, do you want to get promoted automatically or promoted at Wembley? You take the Wembley. You take the day out.
100%, absolutely, 100%.
We had that. We had a parade, open top bus parade through Oxford a couple of days after the win, and he was at the front of the bus singing anti-Swindon songs, and it was just a wonderful. He's absolutely right. He was, and still is a fan, and I hope he goes on and has a great career at somewhere else. He's been talked about maybe for the Swansea job, and I hope he does go and get success somewhere, and we'll always remember him very fondly because of that, that promotion at Wembley, and he left us mid, during the season where it looks like we might survive. So it hasn't spoiled the memory of that Wembley thing by getting relegated straight away. So I think he'll always be a legend.
Okay, fair enough. Because you've changed manager, I'm going to give you one question, and that's one word about Gary Rowett.
I'm going to go with 2. We'll hyphenate it. Proper gaffer. There's a
proper gaffer.
Proper gaffer. One of the guys that sits next to me constantly goes, "He's a proper gaffer," is Gary Rowett. Proper gaffer. And I think there is that kind of. He's got that. He is. If you sort of wanted to do a sort of a archetypal championship mid-table championship manager to an extent, Gary Rowett's your man.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Right. That's it from me. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay. Before I do let you go, just remind us where we can find you.
Yeah, so we're Fence End Pod on Blue Sky and the Fence End Pod on Twitter X.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Good luck for the rest of the season, apart from obviously our game a week on Saturday at your place. So, but good luck. And like I said, I think you will. I think you will stay up. I think you've created, like you said, that buffer. That is just making it harder for teams to try and catch you. And then each and every point that you get, even if it is points, it just makes it harder for them teams to catch you.
Absolutely, yeah. Keep the scoreboard ticking over. That's what we want to do. That's
right, definitely. So just remember where you can find us, guys. It is scrolling down the ticker. Just remember at All Things Sky Blue on Twitter or X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We are available on YouTube. Please go and like and subscribe. And we're also available on podcasts. Please go and rate us 5 stars. We're sponsored by White Steel Fabrications, and we're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar and the Sky Blue Tavern. And we're also in association with the Coventry Ladies. So once again, Simon, thank you very much for joining me. If we're both in the same league next year, it would be great to have you on again. It would be fantastic. Hopefully, we've got a good day at Wembley and we make it via the playoffs. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
No problem. Cheers.